Now, the number of used cars sold in Ireland throughout 2012 was in excess of 550,000, well over half a million, with 1 in 5 of those cars found to have been either clocked or have finance outstanding, which is a staggering number of vehicles if you do the math on it. Now, joining us to talk us through these alarming findings with some tips on what to do and indeed what to look out for when you're buying a used car is Teskey from Motorcheck.ie. Good morning, Shane. You're very welcome. Happy New Year to you. Over half a million used cars, and 1 in 5 of those has an issue either in terms of clocking or in terms of the finance. That's extraordinary.
It is. It's a very worrying statistic, and it's one that I suppose would lead us to believe that more people should be checking the histories of their cars, because unfortunately the survey that we carried out was only on a small portion of that. It was on 20,000 cars that revealed those statistics. But when we looked at the entire market as a whole, there were over 500,000 cars sold privately on a private-to-private basis. It represented more than 75% of the market. So you and I might think that most cars are bought from garages, be they main dealers or non-franchise dealers. That's not the case.
Well, given the economic climate, I can understand why that figure is this, or those figures are as high as they are. Can I back you up there a little bit? What state is the motor industry in at the moment? And as the second part of that question is how has the budget impacted on it? Because normally it's around this time of the year that you find out what kind of health it's in.
Yeah, it used to be the case that over 50% of the sales happened in the first month of the year, but we're, I suppose, into a new area now with the new number plate, 13.1 and 13.2, and we're wondering if some of the sales will fall after June or July of this year. The latest statistics of this morning showed that we're on par with last year. There's only 15 cars in the difference between registrations for this year.
Last year was one of the worst years the motor industry's ever had in the country, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't good. You know, 2009 was one of the worst, just over 50,000 cars registered. And that created the problem we have in the used car market today. We rely on new cars being registered in the past to feed our used car market today. So there's a serious shortage of 2009 vehicles.
Which of course means that people are going abroad, which also means that they need to be even more vigilant, and it's harder to check up on the provenance of those cars, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's not actually when you know where to look.
Well, this is where Motorcheck.ie comes in, obviously. So get your plug in, go on.
Well, it is true that Ireland in the past has become a dumping ground for cars that won't sell in the UK, because we estimate that 1 in 3 people in the UK will check the history of a car. In Ireland, it's about 1 in 10. So if you're trying to sell a car that's been clocked or written off in the UK, it's very, very difficult. Ship it across the way to Ireland, and the chances are you're going to get away with it.
And we haven't had a one-stop shop type organisation here that can go and do that and effectively find out what the provenance of a car is, but we do now.
Yes, we do now with Motorcheck. In the past, Revenue would be in charge of charging VRT on cars as they're being imported. They're not worried about issues like whether the car was previously written off or clocked or not. Their job is to collect the road tax. The Department of Transport do a very good job of policing what's on the roads in terms of number plates and who it's owned. But again, they're not responsible for ensuring that the car's provenance in terms of finance checks and so forth is kept in line. That's left to the private sector, to ourselves and others.
Right, over 500,000 cars last year either clocked or with finance issues. 1 in 5 of those. 1 in 5 of those. So that's 100,000 cars that are either potentially not fit to be on the roads, or that you may not actually really own. So what do you do about that?
Okay.
Well, let's talk about the clocking first of all.
Yeah, that's rife. Clocking is a very serious problem, and the biggest difficulty with clocking is that it's not illegal. So it's very hard for legislation to take care of it. Well, if you own a car, you're entitled to have apples and oranges on the dashboard if you want to, or you can have digits displaying your odometer reading. So if you want to wind it back,
okay, so from an automotive or from a mechanical engineering point of view, it's not illegal, but surely it is illegal in terms of it's misleading and it's false information, it's false selling, isn't it?
Yes.
And potentially dangerous, because if this car is not fit to be on the road, or if it has had a crash history.
Yeah, that's true. If you try and sell the car as a business and you don't tell somebody that the mileage is not genuine, you're misrepresenting the state of the car, and then Consumer Protection Act will protect the consumer. But again, over 70% of cars are bought privately. And
there's different guidelines and regulations. If I go to a main dealer and I have a problem, then I'm protected. If I buy off you and there's an issue with it, you have
no protection. Yeah, you may come after me civilly, but it will cost you maybe 3 times as much as the value of the car to try and chase me down. And sure, I'll have skipped out at that stage. I'm not willing to give you your money back for the car.
Right, so obviously caveat emptor, buyer beware. What's the issue with, for example, say I buy the car off you and it's fine, it's perfect, I've had it checked out and all the rest of it, but then I discover, however it happens, that it wasn't yours to sell, that you had bought it, but you hadn't paid the finance on it. Now, I would have imagined in that instance the issue of the finance company would be with you, but not with me. But is that the case?
No, the finance, it goes back to the Celtic Tiger when hire purchase agreements were very popular. In fact, it still remains a popular way to buy a car. And it means that the finance company who's lent the money actually owns the car until the last payment is made. So if you have a hire purchase agreement on your car and you sell it to me, you actually don't have the right to sell it to me because it's not your car. I may wake up 3 weeks later or 3 months later when you've stopped making your repayments and find that the car is simply gone. The bank has repossessed it because the payments haven't been made on it. So that's something you absolutely
surely that contract is with you and not with me. So therefore they should take it out of your hide and not with mine.
The finance company, well, they own the vehicle and the contract is with you. So Alan has signed the contract originally, signing himself up for finance for the car. If he sold it on to Shane, no contract passes between Shane and the bank who lent the money originally. So they own the vehicle.
So it's caveat emptor on the double.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
But how do you? I mean, okay. You can get an engineer to go and have a look at a car, and there are. So if cars have been clocked or if have been previously crashed, a good guy will spot that there's an issue with it.
Yeah.
But how in the name of God would you know that the finance hasn't been paid on?
You have to check the database. You simply go on, check, put the registration number in, pay a small fee. It's €15, and we'll check 25 main funders' databases and tell you within minutes whether this car has a finance agreement.
But that financial arrangement between the finance company and whoever bought the car in the first place, surely that's confidential information. How would I, as a third party, have access to that?
You do through the Irish Credit Bureau and a company called Hire Purchase Information. You won't get how much is owed or when it's due to expire, but you will just get there is a lien against the car.
So there's an issue.
That must be settled before you buy the car.
Okay, right. Now, we've mentioned Motorcheck. You had a long history in the motor industry in various aspects of it. You obviously saw the need for this, and you and some of your colleagues set up Motorcheck.ie. And so, for example, if I want to buy a second-hand car, do I just go to you and say, right, what do I need to do? And you point me or take me through it and provide me with the expertise that I require. How much are you going to charge me for it?
It starts at €20 for a full history check. And what we do with that is we include the UK history of a car, whether it's an Irish registration or a UK one. There's a vast amount of cars on the roads in Ireland that are actually cars that were imported from the UK originally and now have an Irish number plate on them. And we're able to track them by virtue of the VIN number back through their history in the UK and present you with its history there. And you'll find that the number of vehicles coming across to Ireland from the UK that have been written off is growing all the time. That's something we'd urge people to be looking at.
Well, I know little or nothing about cars, and I know where the petrol goes, I know how to drive them and all the rest. So I would be terrified. I wouldn't know what to do or what not to do. I would always bring somebody with me, and I can't imagine that I would buy privately because I'd be afraid of being caught, because I know that there's 1,000 scams, and even if I know 999 of them, there's another 10 or another 50 I don't know.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially today. The scammers are getting so much cleverer, especially when there's a shortage of used cars out there. We saw last year an increase in cloned cars that don't exist, that are on the web, on websites for sale, and you put a deposit down, turn up to try and buy the car, it's gone.
Okay, so the rule of thumb is, and we're not just saying it because obviously it's a business view as well, but if you're going to buy privately, you don't have the normal protections of the law, so you need to get an edge, you need to get something on your side, and for the sake of 20 quid and going to Motorcheck.ie, you can have that.
That's right. Thank you, Mark.
Shane Teskey, you're very welcome. Thank you very much indeed. Now,